Evening, UK comic reviewer here. Basically, we're going to have a look at this Beezer book from 1978. The year before I was born, so it is 42 years old. So these are really good. So it gives you a bit of a look as to what was happening before, what the comics had before before the 80s ones came along. So let's have a look and see what some of our parents might have been reading about. Some the usual characters there: Ginger there, Fingers at Bad Lads trying to break into a safe, and a woman asks him to open a tin. Not sure how you do that. Smiffy being dirty, turning up for school against uniform policy, obviously. Knuck and Fingers basically supporting Boss to build a brick wall. Not sure why. The Banana Bunch with a load of plants on their heads. Mo giving some advice. Colonel Blink looking at his reflection, and Knock out of Bad Lads asking a waiter to put his hands up and don't make a sound. That's going to be a bit difficult. Smiffy throwing a snowball at what looks like the young Sid's dad. And a drawing of all the characters on there from Baby Crockett. Ginger again, running towards the library so he can sneeze. Very nice. Pop, Dick and Harry being ambushed by a couple of bullies, taking their boats home and then getting revenge. And borrowing Pop's umbrella because they lost his golfing umbrella, which obviously, sorry, it's an ice cream van outside. So they won't disguise it. Unfortunately, that didn't quite happen, and they got punished. Baby Crockett trying to direct a fly out of a window unsuccessfully. Bad Lads stealing a telescope and deciding to knock both of them out with it accidentally, of course. Then they run off, and then they decide to steal some money from a safe because he was looking at the safe from the telescope, stealing the money, which then ultimately burns because he accidentally puts it out the window. So the sun reflects and goes in and burns up all the money, which obviously doesn't leave him very chuffed, so poor old Nuck has to hide. Numbskulls, their man doing some ice skating in the snow, throwing a snowball at another guy rather, and regretting it. Little Mo going swimming, and failing one dive, and somehow actually manages to swallow some of the pool, even though I don't think there's any literal way she can do that. Mr. Licko, some alien who lollipops end up in a tree, and a policeman decides he doesn't want him in the tree. Tells him to come down. This was quite a rare story actually about this alien who had these lollipops, and then the policeman magically turns into a pig. Which obviously is causing quite a few problems. And he decides then to try and direct traffic, which causes even more commotion. And then he decides to help himself to some apples. So he's stealing the apples. Very nice of him. But he actually foils a robbery, which is, so I suppose, yeah, it does work out in the end. And decides to lick another lollipop, but can't really go down a police station dressed as a pig. So he turns into a monkey and a donkey before getting rather large feet, and then returning to normal to have a genuine lollipop. And then Smiffy, whose dad is getting annoyed by a fly, like we all do, and tries to chase after it. So Smiffy decides to be an animal rights protector and or a fly rights protector, which really does annoy his dad, and takes him upstairs. And he writes what looks like a little essay of some sort about animal rights or fly rights. And the fly decides to help himself to his jam and ruin his essay, so Smiffy decides to take it out on the fly, which to much to the pleasure of his dad. And then we've got the Hillies and Billies, who the older guy's wives decided they've had enough of bullets flying everywhere into their cooking utensils, and ultimately get into a fight in the shop because they want to be the first customer. What are we going to do? Buy every pan in the shop? Anyway, Colonel Blink, who doesn't seem to like the nice, young, cool, hippie hairstyles of the 70s, and decides to cut his nephew's Indian chief feathers, and gets confused over hair. Over here, where there's a guy resting on a flower bed and insults a guy's dog, and ends up with very long hair himself with a load of hair restorer on there, which was bizarre. And then Baby Crockett deciding he doesn't want a bath and fools his father. Banana Bunch trying to go fishing and being chased by a bull, and then basically end up upsetting the gamekeeper. Well, Smiffy does Dopey does anyway. Not Smiffy, I'm getting confused with the Backstreet Kids, sorry. Dopey does, and ends up getting a load of fish fingers as a reward. And you've got Beezer teasers, which are like puzzles, and obviously you have to use your head to figure out various puzzles in there. Ginger playing marbles with another kid, getting into trouble with a police officer because of his hair, with his hair sort of being how he picked him out. Young Sid Copper's kid. Sid decides to go skating and runs into his father, causing a car crash, and these two criminals, it turns out, run off with their loot, and Sid manages to catch him in the end, and his dad is running late because he hasn't got skates on. And you've got Crooked Smiles, which is a load of short ones about the bad lads, stealing some tartan there, obviously, playing football, although how on earth Nut can mistake a brown football for a black ball on chain, who knows, and then poor Boss nearly drowning, and filing a cake because of the old cake, trying to file away the prison window bars to try and get out and escape, and Boss caught under a bed, and Nut being whacked on the head when trying to steal a diamond. Very nice. Then you got Mo doing some stunts on the way home, and her father deciding she's not going to go right up in the top cupboard. Pop, Dick and Harry. Pop, Dick and Harry. There's a news report on their street, so Pop wants to give an interview. And the twin Dick and Harry decide to play a load of tricks on him, unfortunately, which ultimately backfires. And you've got Baby Crockett again, who decides to try and make out that he's confused about what his mum asked him to buy from the shop, although I'm not sure why you'd send an infant to the shop, but never mind. Sheriff's an ape, the sheriff with the ape sheriff, looking for criminals, obviously. The poor other guy getting knocked out, and basically going after two guys dressed as goats, and being whacked out by a pole because his aim just missed, and they end up getting treated for their injuries because obviously they both ended up with getting sore heads, and one guy's trousers fall down, and he has his gun taken away, the ape guy, and ends up with making bows and arrows, causing a bit of commotion in a barber's shop with some guys getting some very interesting haircuts, and then the arrow flying through, and a poor lady getting rather more castor oil than she was hoping, and then Moose's head gets it, and a load of money falls out. So these guys, which basically turns out to be the loot that these guys stole earlier. So Paul Dan, the other sheriff, gets a whack on the head, and the ape decides to catch them and send another bow, and gets up another bow and arrow and another arrow to basically ruin their cart and take them back to jail. You've got the bad lads here, doing a robbery and jumping into a car. Unfortunately, basically didn't tell them that the car ran out of petrol until then, so they ran off and ended up nicking some laundry by the looks of it. Then you've got Little Mo and Mirabelle playing noughts and crosses. Funny thing is, Muggsy never appeared in this one. It's a bit strange. But anyway, because he's normally her antagonist character. And they basically they decide to play more noughts and crosses, which her dad doesn't, just to her dad's chagrin. And then you've got the Hillies and Billies, this guy who's big and strong, changing the Hillies, changing the Billies to a one-on-one fight, and they lose. And probably one of the smaller characters in the Billies getting a whack on the head, so he goes to sort him out, but obviously he's a pretty small and weak character. But it turns out he does kung fu, so he easily beats him up. And you've got the Numbskulls telling their man to get a haircut so they can fill their sofa in with some of the hair that's fallen out. Unfortunately, he ends up getting too much hair cut off, and they all end up cold. And you've got Baby Crockett trying to get a dog to help him find some food. Unfortunately, the dog decides to eat the food as well. And you've got some more puzzle picks there about animals. And then you've got young Sid the Cooper's kid having with the sergeant putting a little device on so he can track where he's going. Young Sid decides to take it off, and his dad decides to catch a load of criminals, which is good. And with Sarge being confused as to why the device has gone to a different location, which ultimately Sid decided to take. And this is Banana Bunch's main rivals, the Mulligan's mob. They were their main chief rivals and the ones they disliked a lot. Basically trying to stay away from them in a snowball fight and ending getting trapped by trying to get a large snowball up to them, and basically using a bit of ingenuity to fire some snowballs. Unfortunately, they hit a police officer who automatically assumes that it's the Mulligan's mob who got him, and he chases them at the end, much to the pleasure of the Banana Bunch. Then you got Joe Soap, the young lad whose granddad makes magic bubbles out of everything. So, and in this one makes very large wood, including the cricket bat and the table. And you've got Colonel Blink again with who's basically trying to find a torch, but ends up buying a camera and a telescope. And you've got Scrapper, that young lad who likes to get into fights with everyone, basically going out in the snow, doesn't want that jacket on, but gets into trouble with his mum at the end. And you've got Frisky, the fearless form, which is this, presumably this deer, and you've got a load of it's an unusual comic strip, really. It's a very, very old-fashioned type one, which is really interesting. But with this about this deer who doesn't fear anything by the looks of it, and looks like he foils a sheep robbery. Anyway, he grows up to be a big, nice stag, and you've got Ginger again on a seesaw, Smiffy losing out on his food, but because his dad is eating all of his food, because he has to go and wash his hands told to go and wash his hands by his mum, and his dad ends up getting his own back on his dad, so he has his food instead. And a load of the other characters there, in little mini comic strips, and obviously that's the end of the book. So thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't, and take care, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye.